Good morning, class. Mr. Stone here. The problem we have today, it's going to be a lesson on inequalities and putting them on the number line. Okay? If you look at the inequalities, really what this is the same thing we were doing before, solving an equation. The only thing is you have an inequality sign instead of an equal sign. Okay? And that's the only difference. As you see, we have this sign instead. So what I did is I put a little chart above. It actually shows what these mean. And if you look at the chart, you just follow across, and then they even have what you put, an open dot or a closed dot. Okay? I always, a long time ago, I learned to remember the closed dot. If it has the equal to, greater than or equal to, it used more ink. So the closed dot uses more ink than an open dot. Okay, and that was just a quick little tidbit to try to remember which one you use all the time. Okay, and then the number line, if you look, you go to the left, it's less than. You go to the right, it's greater than. And that's kind of the only thing you got to remember is if the number's getting bigger, if x is greater than, it goes to the right. If x is less than, it goes to the left. And the way you read these equations, I'm just going to write it real quick. It goes like this. It reads this way. X is less than 5. Now, it could be 5. It could be written like this. These two equal each other. But how you always have to read it, you always have to start with the variable. The variable is x. It could be y, it could be z. But you always start with the variable. So if I'm reading this one, I read x is less than, because I have the less than sign facing towards me. This is a smaller thing than this. So it's less than 5. Now if I read from this side, I'd read it backwards. I'd be reading like this. Okay? I'd say x is less than 5. So it's the same thing. Okay? It's just if you flip the sign, you can flip the number. And that's all you have to do. Okay? Let me just erase this. So this is gone. Okay, and then I'll start one of the equations. I'll start with the first one. And I'll go nice and slow, and you'll see, wow, this is easier than I thought. Because it really is. It's almost going back to the same thing we were doing before. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to write 9x minus 7 is less than or equal to 38. Okay, now our object all the time is get this x by itself. So what I do first, I get rid of the constant. So I'd add 7 to both sides. You add 7 to this side, and you add 7 to this side. Come down. These two cross out. You got a negative 7 and a positive 7. It makes it 0, so it crosses it out. I'd bring down the 9x. So the 9x comes down. Then I'd bring down my inequality sign. And I'd copy it just like it is, because I didn't divide by a negative number or multiply by a negative number. If you do that, you have to flip the sign. Okay? Now on the 38 plus 7, it's 45. So now, I still didn't get rid of the x by itself. So I got to do that. So let's see. This is 9 times x. So the opposite of times is division. So I divide both sides by 9. So I divide this side by 9 and divide this side by 9. These two 9s cross out, and it comes down with the x. Now with the sign, I bring that down. Keep it like it is because I didn't divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. And 45 divided by 9 is 5. So now my equation says x is less than or equal to 5. Okay? So now I want to draw it on the number line below. So I look above, and it's a closed dot because I use more ink. Remember that. Okay? So I'd usually always, I'm going to call this the 0. I'm going to call this the 0. I'll call this the 5. Okay? I'll put it right about the middle, and that'll be the 5 spot. Okay? So that'll be the 5 spot. So what I do first, I kind of just put my pen on the 5. And now, then I'd read backwards and it would say less than, x is less than, because that's what you're always looking for. Where's x lie in this line, okay? So it's less than or equal to, and that says it's a closed dot, so I can make a big circle, okay? Closed circle. And now it's less than, so that means I'm going to the left, okay? The number's again less, and that's it, right like that. And that's all there was to it, okay? And that was your answer, just like that. But remember, you got to do the number line correct, because if you don't, all you do is solve the equation and you don't do this number line correct, the teacher's going to give you 50%. And don't forget, if you get 10 answers and you do all the number lines wrong, you're going to end up getting 50%, which means you didn't pass the exam, okay? So you got to kind of learn both. And like I said, if you just remember, hey, if it's less than or equal to or greater than and equal to, it's a closed dot. If it's just greater than or less than, it's an open dot. And that's all there is to it. And then just kind of read, hey, where's the x lie? It lies in the less position or it lies in the greater position. And that's it, okay? I'm going to erase this in tip, and we'll start the next one. Okay, let's go back to pen, regular tip. Okay, so the problem is 3 is less than x over 2 plus 1. Okay, and that's your problem. And what I do first, okay, is I'd get rid of the constant, the 1. So if it's a plus, if it's an addition, it's got to be a subtraction. So we subtract 1 from both sides. So subtract 1 from this side. So let's see, we carry this down. We got a 2 there. We carry down the sign, okay? We didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so the sign stays facing the same way, okay? And then we carry down the x over 2. And these two cross out. A positive 1 and a negative 1 makes 0, so they're both gone. So right now, this is our problem. It's 2 is less than x over 2. So what we have now is x is, I still want to get the x by itself, so it's x divided by 2. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So that means we multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of this 2. Okay, so we multiply this side by 2, and we multiply this side by 2. Don't forget 2 could be 2 over 1. So there you get 2 fractions side by side. And the way this works is these two cross each other out, okay? So we end up with 4. We carry down the sign greater than x. And that's all there was to it. So now, let's see, I want to get x, plot this, okay? So let's put the 4 here, okay? We'll make this the 4, okay? So I put my pen on the 4, okay? Now where's x? 4 is less than, okay? That means I could write this, just it might help you. I could flip it like this and say x is greater than, because don't forget I still is greater than 4. Those are both equal to each other, okay? So that means 4 is less than, okay? So that means x is going to be every number bigger than 4. But don't forget, it's not equal to, so that means we have an open circle, okay? And then we just go every number bigger than. And that's all there was to that. But you see how we did that? I flipped the sign if I wanted, or I could read it just backwards. X is greater than 4, so that means it's every number bigger than 4. And the greater than is going to the right, okay? And the fact that it's just with no equal sign, it means it's an open circle. And that's all there was to that one, okay? So let me erase this one and we'll go to the next one, okay? Erase, broad tip, okay. Go back to pen. Okay, the next one says negative 8, x plus 18 is greater than negative 22. Okay, so what do I do here? We want to get rid of the constant first. So it's a plus 18. So the opposite of plus 18 is a minus 18. So we subtract 18 from both sides. Okay, now we have, on the math problem, we have two negatives. If we remember our T-box that I did before, okay, we got a negative side and a positive side, okay? Now we list these down. It's 22 and 18. These add up to 40. And what side they on? They on the negative side. So that means the answer is going to be a negative, okay? That's the team that won, and it's going to be a 40. We carry down the sign. We didn't divide by any negative or positive yet. Okay, so the sign stays the same. Now these two 18s cross out, okay? And we carry down a negative 8x. Now, we got to get rid of the negative 8, okay? So what do? We divide by negative 8, okay? That crosses that out. So we divide this side by negative 8. And if we divide one side by negative 8, we got to divide the other side by negative 8. Okay, what you do to one side, you got to do the other. Okay, and now the fact that you're dividing by a negative number means you got to flip the sign. Okay, you flip it. So that means we're going to come down, the answer is going to be this way. So we come down with x, because these two cross each other out. And now a negative divided by a negative, okay, is going to be a positive, okay? A negative divided by a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So negative 8 divided by negative 40, negative 40 divided by negative 8 is going to be positive 5. And that's it. That says x is less than positive 5, okay? And now let's go down and plot our chart. So I'm going to make this the 5. I can make it anywhere. And the fact that it's not using much ink means it's going to be an open circle. So I make an open circle there. It's not using as much ink. And now, which way is x? It's on the less than side. So we're going to go this way. Less than. X is less than. And that's all there was to this one. But you see how you had to flip the sign because you're divided by a negative number. And that's the only time you flip the sign. If you don't divide by a negative or multiply by a negative, you can leave the sign always facing the same way. And that was all there was to this whole problem, okay? And always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and remember what I always say is math can be fun. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.